Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 501, and today we're doing battle with Nasus Kindred. And so welcome to the second set of battles of the Fates Voyage Onward Variety Patch, continuing on with the Eternal Battles, and today we're going to be featuring the Dune Swallower. And so this was a card I was pretty hype on as we started to review the 4.11 patch notes. I thought that this guy came down onto the board and either killed one ally or killed a mana gem 3 times. I didn't realize it was kill up to 3 allies, and then however many allies you don't kill, you kill off that many mana gems. But I thought that this card still had a bit of potential, and I've been quite impressed with the Dune Swallower, even though it does carry this pretty hefty comes into play cost. And so the big thing that this deck is looking to focus and feature on is going to be Atrocity. This is a through and through deck designed to kill our opponent with Atrocity. And that brings us back to the Dune Swallower and says, hey, that's not really that hard to do, right? If you can just get your opponent down to 9, if you only have to realistically deal half of your opponent's life total to their face, then you can Atrocity off your 9 attack Dune Swallower directly to the opponent's nugget and get the kill that way. You even have a handful of ways to boost the Dune Swallower's stats with the Darkened Bloodletters, potentially getting it up to 10. And so that was what really kind of initially drew me to this style of deck, is if you only have to deal half of your opponent's health to win the game, then that's, not that tough for any kind of aggro deck to do. And as we've kind of seen over the course of the past Eternal seasons with decks like Thresh Nasus is through and through an aggro deck, and it has no trouble whatsoever dealing 10 damage to the opponent. That's typically where the damage stops on its draws that aren't just utterly ridiculous. You get your opponent to like 10, and then you Atrocity away the Nasus to deal like 15 damage more. And so that was the kind of idea that I wanted to bring to this deck. I feel like the real core of getting this deck to work is getting the right mix of sacrificable units and then having the same amount of aggression to go along with it. And so you can run into some awkward draws to where you have a bunch of Wings in the Wave tokens, but then nothing to sacrifice them off, or you get to turn 6 and want to play your Dune Swallower and have to sacrifice 2 mana gems. I certainly agree that this deck can come up with some awkward draws, but at the end of the day, I've been quite happy with how this has been playing out. The early game aggression works very good. The cards like Darkened Bloodletters are just absolutely fantastic in the versatility that it brings, being able to attach it to a unit, kill the unit off, then get the fresh cultist on the board, and then either continuing some massive aggression with that cultist or sacrificing it away from something else. Just a lot of variety that can come in. And so the things that I want to call out with this that you typically do or do not see in a deck like Thresh Nasus or Kindred Nasus as we're playing here is number 1, Kindred. I worry as we're out here playing a deck with, say, 3 Dune Swallowers, 3 Nasus, and then 3 Thresh. If we ever get to the point where we have to sacrifice off some mana gems, we're really going to be struggling to cast the likes of a Thresh, and I really just don't want to have 6 5-drops in our deck either. And so we've moved away from Thresh into Kindred. I am quite interested in Kindred in this format, as it does seem to be developing into a fairly mid-rangey, Freylordy kind of affair, and Kindred really kind of thrives in that space. And so he is cheaper than Thresh. He comes down on curve to where we can curve Kindred into Dune Swallower into Nasus, and he gives us that strong sacrifice angle against those mid-rangey style of decks. I've been quite happy with the usage of Kindred. Up next, we are not playing any copies of Vengeance. It just didn't feel ultimately necessary. You have to ask yourself the question, do I want to kill my opponent's unit or do I want to kill my opponent, right? You typically want to just kill your opponent. And so we have completely cut the Vengeances out of this deck to fit in the full 3 copies of Atrocity, because we do want to be very all in on this combo of either nuking away a Dune Swallower or nuking away a Nasus to chunk our opponent down for that final 10 points of health. And so that's it. That's the deck we're going to be doing battle with today. But before the battles begin, you know what we got to do? We got to pay that pay-to-win price. And I couldn't remember. I forgot to check if there was even anything to load up. Nah, we're good. It's just the Dune Swallower and Kindred. And so we're set to go there. Let's jump on into battle. So finally, the ranked queues are back up. It was like I got to like 8 or 9 o'clock last night my time, and the queues still weren't up. And it was like, yeah, fuck it, whatever, you know. I guess we'll just have to wait till tomorrow to start the journey up into Masters. But nonetheless, up against Annie Jhin, we need to find a lot of early game stuff. And while I would typically be fine to hang on to Hate Spike, we do need a sacrifice card to go along with it. Maybe it's just okay. Like being able to Hate Spike an early Annie or something's not that bad. It's just like we need to pick up an early unit fast. And this is the kind of bummer in that space. We hit the Cursed Keeper, which is a nice early unit, but we're not going to be able to sacrifice it off until turn 3. I guess the thing to kind of stop and think about is we're not playing an absolute ton of 1-drops in this deck, right? We only have the 3 Bakai Reapers and the 2 copies of Wings in the Wave, and so our chances of hitting an early game drop weren't very spectacular. I'm going to go ahead and attack. I think he blocks here never. This is a block I would make 100% of the time in Expedition, but I don't think it quite cuts it here in this space of Eternal. Now here, are we just going to take down the Annie? Like, I think she's a realistically fine target. We're probably not going to get to block her. Well, if we're gonna play Blighted Caretaker next turn, then we would like to leave Annie on board. And so let's do this. We're gonna Hate Spike a Boom Crew Rookie. We want to do it now. So that we have the unit available to block. The next question is, do we want to play Vile Feast or do we want to play Cursed Keeper? And Cursed Keeper is pretty good next turn, so I think that's the one that we're going to stick with. It's a bit of a non-bow in terms of what we can do with this husk from the Hate Spike, but maybe we do just Vile Feast. I can't bring myself to do it. I just can't do it, fam. I just can't do it. We'll give him that chance to play the Legion Saboteur, and then we can go for it, right? That's what it's about. Yeah, this cannot feel good as Annie Jhin. If your opponent ever has board and you're just like, nope, not attacking, that is a terrible space for Annie Jhin to be in. See if he changes his mind now that we spent the mana. Does not. Okay, feeling pretty good here now. Gotta like that.
For the Empire.
Interesting.
Make the Empire proud.
I mean, I'm on board. Let's clear this stuff out. If he wants to block our 2-1 with his Boom Crew Rookie to just get the value, we do still have Vile Feast in hand for the following turn. And so this should just probably be the death knell of Annie Jhin. But it also brings us into this kind of interesting space with things like the Dune Swallower, as you know, the opponent plays the Tusk Speaker to kind of cancel my point of view, but you know, he wasn't really going to have any blockers capable of stopping a Dune Swallower, and so we could have potentially, you know, just played it and chunked in for 1,000,000 damage. And so it's a little bit short of lethal, sure, but the power it has is definitely there. Oh, this is gonna feels bad for the old for the old opponent here. Not only do we get the kill on the unit and get the fearsome blocker off the board, we get to counterspell the grenade. And he passes. Alright, we'll just let it happen. Oh, he didn't pass.
We are at the threshold of something great. What we do is so much bigger than us both.
Gotta assume that this is still just fine. It was. GG, well played. Didn't get our big dragon on the board, you know. A bit of a bummer there, but before the day is done. Before the day is done, indeed. Yeah, I mean, that's been my big kind of take on this dragon thing. It's like you read it and you're like, how much, you know, can I turn this into upside, right? Like I don't want to have 3 units on the board and sacrifice all of those units. I've been pretty happy with just sacrificing like one. You know, if it's turn 7 and you're dropping 2 mana gems, it's not that bad. You're really just losing out on Nasus at that point, and so it's been a pretty good deal for me. All right, though, so we're up against the same opponent playing Annie Jhin. Definitely hanging on to the Fading Icon. I do like hanging on to the Darkened Bloodletters. It's again kind of that awkward space in determining what we're going to be able to keep on board, because these can't block units are not particularly exciting against Annie Jhin, right? As you're facing down Legion rear guards and all these really attacky units, having these can't block bros on board doesn't feel that great.
For the glory of Nasus.
All right, we'll get our Fading Icon down. I was really hoping we were going to be able to darken Bloodletters the prey, but that's just kind of off the table now. So with this, I'm just going to prevent all of the damage. You know, as this game kind of trucks on, that's where we're going to be able to get our advantages. So I think if we just prevent everything, that's going to be our kind of best angle. It just does suck, though, how much our hand doesn't do anything after this. I'm ultimately just worried that if we don't get enough of this stuff on board, we're just going to immediately die to a stage hand. First Keeper wasn't a terrible addition, though. Now it's like if we get staged hand next turn, we can at least hate spike away the unit, kill this Boom Crew rookie that just hit the board, get a little bit of upside that way. Still a very scary space to be. I'm not entirely certain we can beat a stage hand. All right, so how does this go? We need that thing to hit, and then we can hate spike now to get our blocker. Right, if we played the hate spike while the circle was on the stack, it would just move the stun over to a different unit. So that kind of works out. We're still getting aced here in terms of damage, but so there's the easy block. Do we need to make a value play with the Escaped Abomination? I'm kind of interested in keeping the Abomination around for next turn so that we have something to sacrifice off if we want to. We're only going to be falling to 8. So we'll keep the Abomination, we'll play the Undying, and then we can get the Dust Swallower on board. The downside to this kind of thing is he's going to have a fearsome blocker next turn. So maybe we do just have to soak all of the damage and try and build up to an Atrocity 2 turns from now. Get that spell shield right on the Undying so we can just sacrifice it off, you know? the play of the day coming through. Now the Wings in the Wave. He seems very interesting for next turn, given that if we get the opportunity to get both blockers on board, that's quite good. Now he's in this space to where, you know, Jhin likely his only blocker for a Dune Swallower. Very close to the lethal at this point. You also can't stage hand the Dune Swallower and stuff, so he has to get the lethal on this attack. He's got like 7 damage on board, right? 6 damage on board. So we die to a lot, right? We die to Nox and Fervors and all that kind of nonsense, but it's close. I think that worked out pretty well, given given the way that our unblockable units came together. I'm curious in that game though if our Dune Swallower wasn't just too greedy. Like we knew that he had the thing in hand, but I'm curious if we couldn't have just played the two blockers and then used the Dune Swallower on the following turn. It does leave his Jhin on board though, capable of getting the big block in, but that's tough. GG. All right, next battle. Oof. So what do we got? Fiora Galio. It's probably, it should be just the formidables. I get a little confused when you just see Fiora pop up, but the first thing I thought was like, yeah, this is probably what we get for playing the zero vengeance, zero quicksand kind of deck. But you know, it's still very interesting to me the things that Kindred does to formidables, right? Typically, whenever you're taking off the lowest attack unit on the board, it's not a very good one, right? But when you're out here removing Balins and such, it gets much better fast in terms of what Kindred's doing. All right, reasonable enough start though. I was hanging on to this Dark and Bloodletters just in case we want to load up on a better unit. I didn't want it really to be stuck out here on the fading icon, especially now in the sense that he's got this Broadwing. We can block and take down the health, and then next turn we can Blighted Caretaker and then put a Bloodletters on one of the saplings, and so should be setting up for a pretty decent attack on this round. I think we still want to go that way. If old Balin comes in now. Does not. Well, it's got to make me feel at least a little bit better about this Bloodletters attack. Should be getting to take his good units off of the board, and then against decks like Formidables, I'm typically fine to just trade away these units if we can. It's one of those spots to where if you're taking away their health, you're also taking away their attack, and so it doesn't feel like it's a bad block when that comes down.
They would fall by my blade.
Now Fiora rolls in. We do have a bit of protection here since we have the hate spikes, but gotta worry about her a little bit. I wonder who he goes after. I wonder if he goes after the 1 mana unit or the 0 attack unit. At least now this way, if he tries to hook our prey, we can take the Fiora down with hate spike.
I never hope. Try me.
Give them a chance.
All right, let's see what's up.
My saplings.
Then we got we did it again, man. We got ourselves set up for this for this hate spike onto just a terrible unit. Fearsome, we could put Fearsome on the fading icon, I guess. But not a really strong place for attacking here. We do get more Fiora protection in the Glimpse Beyond. And then this is the thing I always love about the Dark and Bloodletters is it now gets us back in this spot to where, once the prey gets killed off, we do get that gigantic unit back, and ultimately just so strong. And how do we feel about this? Like I'm tempted to just let this happen, and then I'm going to Atrocity the Undying into Fiora. So she's going to level up. All the future Fioras will be leveled up, but oh man, I don't know. This just feels like it's not going to work. Let's cancel out of that. So let's pivot. Like, we still have the counter spell to Fiora level ups into them. To be honest, it's like if we were dropping Atrocity onto Fiora and then she has another troll chant or something. Just such a disaster. What do we got? Vile Feast, Hate Spike, even more protection. Can't complain about that. Especially given that Hate Spike is a technical lethal here. Was a was a technical lethal, not so much anymore. Galio, he's not close to getting the flip though. Good now. Challenger. Interesting Husk if we pick up a unit here. And we pick up the unit, huh? We got the full combo in hand. We just got to get a couple of more points of damage in. And so, let's see. Dune Swallower can certainly come in. Like, this unit most certainly goes. The Cursed Keeper. Get rid of the Prey. Do we want to give up the gem, or do we want to kill off the Undying? I think we just go with the gem at this point. So the only real like bummer at this point is he does have a lot of potential for just Fiora kills here, to where if he blocks a unit and then has a single combat or something, then Fiora can get kills that way. Probably needs something more along the lines of Concerted Strike than something like single combat. But there's a potential for that. Well, what could go wrong, huh? How could this ever fail? How could this ever go poorly? Let's just take the hook directly into Fiora. I have to imagine that if... is that where we want to go? Like, the other thing that's kind of interesting with this is he only has 2 blockers and we have 12 damage of attackers as long as Fiora doesn't come out and kill us here. I think this is okay. And we do have the Vile Feast, and so if his angle is, say, like, Riposte and a Strike, to where Fiora strikes a unit down and then gets the OTK because of the barrier, we have the Vile Feast to pop a barrier here. So I think this is okay. I think we get out of this one. Troll Chant. Had to stop and see if we got a Vile Feast somewhere that's going to get us out of this mess. We do not, but we will go ahead and Vile Feast the Fiora. We're going to lose our Dune Swallower, but turns out we don't need a 9 power shot at this point. We just need a 1. So it's a bit of a bummer we don't have the lethal. There's definite arguments in the order on how you want to set up that Fiora. Right, I put the Bakai Reaper to the left of our unit fighting Fiora, because if we have Fiora over to the left and she gets the kill because she gets that strike in on our unit, then we're not going to be happy about that. And so I think that was a fair enough way to play around the OTK, to where if Fiora's going to get the kill in combat because she has barrier, then you know, it's better to be 1 point short of lethal than to be dead. So, kind of like it. Little like it, don't big like it, you know. Alright, into the next one. Got to see the dragon? No. You can see where the potential comes in with him. Such a meaty, big attacker. Formidable's only blocker there was potentially Fiora, and then if we'd had that challenger somewhere else, you could be in that spot to where the fearsome attack just rolls through. It's been wild seeing the amount of fearsome attacks that can just roll through with this thing. It doesn't feel right. I don't know if I just have it in my head that we've been playing so much like mid-range centric, mid-range focused standard decks to where Omen Hawk just makes sure everything has 3 attack. It's felt really weird getting out here in the space of Eternal and being like, there's really just one unit on the board that can block a fearsome. This dragon is threatening to go 18. But into the next one, up against Azir Irelia. Curious to see what she can do now that there's some minor buffs to Azir coming out of this patch. So I'm just looking to get as much damage as we can here. It's like there's no reason to get super involved with an Azir in this spot. We can't actually kill him, and so we'll take the butcher angle, and then maybe on the next attack we'll be able to get a good bit of damage in off Blighted Caretaker, and then we can try and kill with Atrocity the turn afterward. Don't really want to see the Raising Sands or whatever that thing is called. This has to suck for opponent, right? We set up our blocks to where the last unit to die is going to come and put the mark down on Irelia. So we want to do something like this. We take the 2 damage off of the Sand Soldier, get the Slay on the final unit, and that puts the mark over on Irelia. He can still attack for a ton here, that's for certain, but like he has the second Flawless Duet to get another round of Sand Soldiers on board. He says that too much. It's too much. You zinged my girl real good. Ooh. GG. So, I didn't want to get political in battles with Bust 500. We're not going to really get political here either, but we did just roll across Election Day. I meant to mention how important it is to go vote in these, especially in these like off-year elections. They typically try to do the bullshit out here as to where you have some kind of important ballot measure and you push it through in like the primary election in an off year that just like literally nobody goes to. I'll still go to those, but you know, it's one of those things to where you got to get out there and do it. And so like I know there's a lot of disdain and poor sentiment, especially towards things like the presidential election and not feeling like your vote matters and stuff like that. But your vote most certainly matters in the local elections. I know looking at the local election results, there's been a large swath of results that are just like 60 votes. Right, and those are the ones that are going to be like the most impactful on your life as well, as it comes to like voting for things like city councilman. Probably the highest impact vote you're going to have on something you do in your life is voting for your local city councilman or voting for your mayor. And so, it's to me, it's always important to try and go after those things if you can. So get out there and do it. I don't care what your political stance is. I'm sure you don't care about mine either, but you got to get out there and do that. How are we going to do this, though? They're playing against Gangplank Sejuani, and this has been, like, ultra weird. You're typically in the mindset against Gangplank Sejuani that you got to come out and just prevent every single point of damage that they deal to try and stop the level ups. And I was curious at what point, you know, he was going to be able to come out here and do something. And so this has been pretty weird to where he goes into the third turn and hasn't played any cards. I really wanted to be like playing the Glimpse Beyond to develop a Cultist and then putting the equipment back down on the Thrall. But it's like if opponent had to Make It Rain or something, that was really going to ruin our day. So I think that worked out fine. The Spirits Unleashed makes sense. It's just pretty slow for the opponent. But we're getting to this point. Like I'm really kind of eyeballing this Dune Swallower being able to Atrocity, but we got to get a little bit closer out here. We're pretty far away from it at this point in terms of being able to actually get the Dune Swallower attack in.
Time to get rich.
How deep do we want to go on this? Maybe we do it this way. I'm not really impressed with these Bakai Reapers at this point. They're not going to get a ton of work done. So I'm leaning towards just doing something like this to where we prevent all the damage for the turn. And then we're just going to have to be building into Darkened Bloodletters and Dune Swallowers and stuff. Alright, Warning Shot rolls through, Jagged Butcher comes in. Sure. So we can get our big boy on board, just not ultimately super impressive. He's able to get the blocks in and stuff. It's been a fairly awkward draw here. Alright, your boy's got big. But let's see though. Let's see if he accepts the damage or accepts the block. He's got a block, right? There's no way. Oh my gosh, he doesn't. Ooh, I don't know about that, fam. That gets us pretty close to the lethal. We won't be able to go for it until next turn, but I'm excited for that. All right, I'm less excited now. Less excited now. We can still potentially get kills off of Zolani using the same kind of method here, and so we'll see if that brings itself forward. Oh, he's gonna let our unit survive. I was like, I don't know about that, fam. I don't know about that. And so how do we feel about this though? We probably want to just go ahead and hate spike to see if we can't, you know, pop a spell shield or something that'll let our Zolani survive all of this mess. And so overwhelmed. Oh, we just dead. Oops. Oops, that was not the way to do it. Just being dead was not the way to send that one off. But I think there was an opportunity to still win that one, but it would have been a kind of a tall order. Definitely didn't win it just killing ourselves. But I think that path that we were on was a potential way to get there, right? You play the Zolani, it's the 7/7. You pass the turn, go into the next turn, and then just try an Atrocity to face. No guarantees that it can do anything with that flipped Sejuani on the board, but that play is much better than hate spiking away your unit and just killing yourself. And so, what a place to be! What a place to be! All right, so what are we up against here, though? Senna Viego. That's not really a darkness deck, right? This is probably some kind of weird Castigate but Bandle City thing, or something using that new dragon or something. I'm trying to think if we want to hang on to any of these removal spells. If we were up against darkness, right? If this was Senna Veigar, I would want to hang on to Hate Spike so that we can try and kill that that annoying dude, kill off that 3/2 that increases the power of the increases the power of the, what do you call it? This guy. This is the guy that we wanted to kill. He just turns right up, huh? All right, we can get in front of him for a bit. This is a touch of an awkward draw, but we can like block and do Glimpse Beyonds and stuff to keep his darknesses from leveling up, and then we're going to look to build into this Kindred a turn or two from now.
What is darkness to the unseen?
So my expectations here for Kindred are pretty low. I don't think she ever comes down and just survives here. It's too easy to get vengeanced or whatever, but the next one I feel like is probably going to be doing some work. But at the end of the day, it's not that bad trading. Trading his 6 mana for our 4. Should be okay. Let's say this is what kills the catalyzer kill comes in. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. I was like, I wasn't sure how much I even liked that attack, given that like we're about to just play another Kindred, and and with Kindred on board, like I wanted something to sacrifice off with Ravenous Butcher, but right once this darkness gets up to 3 damage, it can start killing Kindreds off. Let's get out in front of that. Don't care about Senna damage. That's not a big deal. So what my idea was here is we'll play the waves. If he attacks with the catalyzer, we'll put a first wave in front of it and then Vile Feast. Since that didn't happen, now we're in pretty good shape in terms of just fighting through with these slays. Do we want to go ahead and play the second Butcher at this point? Probably. This is a pretty high-powered attack next turn. Like Senna's going to block something. She's either going to just trade with the Reaper, probably block a 3-2, and then we can just try and kill Senna with the Vile Feast. But our strong units still survive, and then we're just hanging out in the back line with atrocities and stuff. Or you just draw the big dog, huh? Just put the big boy down. Opponent says, not today. Not today. The big dog is too much. G. Alrighty, let's get ourselves one more battle in. We'll go up to game 7. See what we can do. We talk politics, so we can just stop now, right? To cleanse the palate of that nonsense. I've been watching Barry. I've always loved Barry on HBO. One of the absolute worst apps of all time. Like, I didn't realize it was so easy to just make your app suck, like, more and more and more and more with each iteration. But fuck me, HBO has done a fantastic job. Like, the initial HBO app was kind of shitty, but whatever. And then when HBO decided to become HBO Max, they completely fucked the app, and it sucked so much. But it started getting like a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And then they got whatever, it's just Max now, right? To where they included all the shitty cable TV shows that nobody ever watches. If you want to watch the Food Channel and HGTV, then I guess you're really set in terms of what Max brings to the table. But they have completely like bombed that app at this point. It's like here recently, it's like, okay, I want to watch a movie, and you can't just like select a movie. You have to go to like the various channels and stuff. And so if you want to watch an HBO movie, you have to go to the HBO channel. And it's like, fine, whatever. But then it's like you start clicking through the space of movies, and you can't like actually filter anything. And so it's getting to the point now to where you're like, okay, I have the choice of either A to Z, which has a bunch of movies from like the 50s that nobody fucking wants to watch, or I have the choice to just like break it down by channel. And it's like, well, I don't want to watch all these other, I don't know, I'm losing it. I have to start thinking about this game. I've just been upset about it, and I tell my wife about it, and she just kind of gives me a blank stare, and I'm like, you've had the format for so long, just copy what Netflix does. Just copy theirs, just straight fucking copy it. Apparently that's just too much to do. Alright, I'm gonna butcher. The thing with this board, I'm really excited about what these Bakai Reapers can do for like one turn. And if he has something to get the Slay to pop off on one of these champions, then we're in like a much worse spot at that point. Maybe this is okay.
It will all be over soon.
I'm just afraid he's going to be able to grow the Bark Beast. We should have put our smaller one on the right, huh? Miss out on a point of damage here. Alright, we'll see if it matters. It's like, this game's tight, though. You know, we both have 2 cards in hand. Zolani's a huge, huge draw. Like, the thing that you don't want to have happen here is you like, drop the Bloodlet, or you drop the Hate Spike on a unit, and then he just Vile Feasts your unit. Hopefully that's not going to be a problem on these upcoming turns. But with the Zolani turning up, we do have a lot of opportunities for value. He's definitely just gotten ahead with the draw twos coming through. Kindred. Hi, girl. Here's your chance to shine. I'm trying to think if we want to try and double Bloodletters. You can put the Bloodletters onto the husk to get the stats. And then it comes back to hand, but I think we want the stats on the Dark Enthrall this turn. Maybe we just lead with the Bloodletters. This does not count as a slay. Killing off husks doesn't count towards activating Kindred. And then this gets us close, right? Kind of looking at this space to where we get the attack in. He's gonna block Bark Beast onto our big unit. This comes in for 8. And then it's just like we're very close in terms of getting a lethal with Atrocity plus Zolani. One unit down. And then the big boy, the Dune Swallower, turns up. What is this thing, a 10-10? Is that going to kill us? I don't think so, right? We gotta worry about the incoming Atrocity. That's going to be the big pain point here. We'll see if he's got it. Sure. I don't know, fam. I'm scared. We're talking too much about HBO. I don't know. I don't know if we can do it anymore. Let's see. He's got a literal fuckwad of cards in hand now, so we got to fade quite a bit. But we do. Oh, good. We get the finish. We get the finish with the Atrocity Dragon. Just what the doctor ordered. Just what we needed. Whew. Good stuff. GG. Mark it a W for bust. If I can find the record marker, we can pull this up and talk about it a little bit more. And so I think that was a pretty good sample of games to show off what this deck is capable of doing. You know, as the Dune Swallower is the big kind of point of controversy, if you will, in terms of a deck like this. Like, you could most certainly just play Thresh Nasus and have nothing to do with Dune Swallower and have a fair amount of success. But does this add more? Does this add anything further? And it's like, I really just like Kindred in this format, as we played decks like that last one to where it's just so mid-rangey focused, or say like the Fiora decks and the Formidable decks. Like, Kindred is just so good against all of these. I really like the addition of Kindred over Thresh. And then having that opportunity as the games kind of go longer, as everybody's out here trying to play their dragons, to get the opportunities for more spell shielded atrocities to the face. It just feels quite good to have access to all of that. And so at its core, like, I think the Dune Swallower is good. I feel like it's been a bit of a roller coaster for me in terms of thinking of how good it's going to be, right? When it was just like slay one ally, it was like, holy fuck, this guy is strong. And then as we moved away from that into the space of like, ooh, it's actually 3, that kind of sucks, but I still want to give it a shot. And after giving it a shot, it feels okay. It feels good. And so I'm very pleased with how it turned out. And so, in terms of the remainder of the deck, though, I think the thing to really kind of figure out is how much do you like the Undying? And I haven't been particularly impressed with it. This is the kind of deck that feels like it should be super, super excited for the Undying, right? You can attack with it and deal some damage, and then you play a Slay and kill it, and then you go into the next turn and you play your Ravenous Butcher and kill it, and then you go into your next turn and play your Dune Swallower and kill it. It just you don't find the like places within your aggressive curve to where it's really like offering that much. And I think it really is probably just going to come down to what the format looks like. And if we're in a format that, has a bunch of like Seraphine, and it has a bunch of Janna, it has a bunch of just like, dirtily control bullshit, right? Then the Undying really starts to shine. But if the format tends to land much more aggressively, then you have to really ask yourself what you're getting out of this 3-drop. And with the deck as it is, like I could very easily see cutting the Undying for another Blighted Caretaker, for Wings in the Wave. Like that gives you some of the Slay sacrifice stuff that you need. I feel like this has been just like a minor touch short in terms of value. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to add in something like Spirit Leech. That could be value just in the sense of, a 4/4 for 3 mana, like how Loyal Badger Bear gives you virtual card advantage. Just having like something meaty might be the answer as well. And so that could be something like including the Darken Equipment, the +2/+2 kill a unit thing. Which does make you kind of circle back to wanting to play the Undyings. But that's where I kind of fit with this. I feel like the number of sacrifice things, like the number of units that you can just kill off, feels pretty good, right? We were in a kind of a bind in a few of those games, but nothing that wasn't manageable. And so I think if we're cutting the Undying, you do want to include another Sacrifice Me Off card. But after that, I think you're kind of free to the sense to like maybe you play an additional Darkened Bloodletters, maybe you play an additional Darkened Halberd. Is that the +2/+2 Shadow Isles one? Maybe there's just a nice value-y kind of unit that you can fit in, and it'll work out nicely here. So this is another one that like right at the beginning of the season, I feel like as we played our Kingfisher deck in the previous video, we were like 35 of 40 cards to being on point with a very good deck. This one feels like it's in kind of the same space to where it's like 36, 37 cards to being pretty optimal. It's just figuring out that last little bit to kind of push it over the edge. And so what that is cutting out the Undyings, maybe going from 3 Dune Swallowers to 2. It just needs like a little bit of tweak. But pick it up and run with it. I think you should have some success. It feels like a pretty reasonable deck to me. So nonetheless, that is going to do it. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust and me. Thank you for being here.